All right, so, Elvis, right? I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah.
But what about the man behind the king?
You mean Colonel Tom Parker?
That's the guy. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into Parker's career using this great article from the Elvis History blog. It's called The Amazing Comeback of Elvis Presley's Manager, Colonel Tom Parker. Pretty intriguing, right?
Yeah, and Parker's a really controversial figure.
Definitely. So was he a mastermind or a manipulator? That's what we're going to try to figure out.
Well, it's a wild story. Contracts, lawsuits, even a comeback. It's all in there.
Let's start at the beginning then. The Elvis-Parker partnership kicked off in 1955. Everyone knows they were a huge success, but this article really digs into the trust that people close to Elvis put in the Colonel.
Yeah, Elvis's own father, Vernon Presley, had Parker's back. I mean, he even said, once you find out you don't have to worry about a guy being your manager, everything works out right.
Wow, that's quite a statement.
It really is.
And Jack Soden, he's the CEO of EPE, Elvis Presley Enterprises. He said Parker had this real talent for building Elvis's career.
He knew how to make things happen.
But then things start to get a little murky. We've got the 50-50 income split. I mean, that's a pretty big chunk, right?
Yeah, it wasn't always like that, though. It started with side deals back in '67, but by 1976, Parker managed to get a contract for half of Elvis's live performance income.
Half. 50%.
50%.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
No wonder people were raising eyebrows after Elvis passed away. That contract really changed the public's perception of the Colonel.
For sure. It all kind of exploded when the Presley estate decided to sue Parker. After Vernon Presley died, the people in charge of Elvis's affairs took a close look at those contracts, and an attorney named Blanchard E. Toole investigated. And let me tell you, his reports were not good. Not good at all.
So what happened with that lawsuit? Did they settle out of court or?
They actually went all the way. Judge Joseph Evans looked at everything and said Parker's business practices were fraudulent. Parker had to pay a $2 million settlement to the Presley estate.
$2 million. I mean, you'd think that would be the end of the story, right?
Yeah.
Career over, reputation in ruins.
Yeah, you would, but that's not what happened. This is where things get really interesting.
Wait, there's more. I thought his reputation was toast after that lawsuit. What happened?
So Parker, he reached out to EPE.
Before the lawsuit even ended?
Yeah.
Why would he do that?
He called up Jack Soden, offered his support.
Oh, wow.
They were kind of in a tough spot with the lawsuit and everything. But here's the real surprise. Parker had a huge collection of Elvis memorabilia.
Like what?
I'm talking warehouses full of it, contracts, recordings, you name it. Even Elvis's gold lamo suit.
Oh, wow.
EPE obviously wanted to get their hands on that stuff. Eventually, they bought the whole collection for $2 million.
$2 million for all that. Sounds like they got a bargain.
Yeah, it was a pretty good deal.
But I'm curious, what about Priscilla Presley? She was running the estate right. What did she think about all this? What was her take on Parker?
Priscilla is actually a really important part of this story. Even when other people were really down on Parker, she always seemed to have a positive view of him. Yeah. After Vernon Presley passed away, she actually wanted Parker to keep managing the estate.
Wow, that's a bit surprising.
It is. And she had a lot of influence. In 1988, she and Lisa Marie, they actually praised Parker, publicly talked about that special partnership he had with Elvis. Priscilla even went to his 85th birthday party.
Wow, so she really helped bring him back into the fold.
Yeah, she did.
Okay, so we've got the initial success, the questionable business deals, the lawsuit, and then this unbelievable comeback.
It's a wild ride, isn't it?
It really is. This article also brings up some other criticisms of Parker. Like, remember that $35,000 deal he made back in 1955 to sell Elvis's contract to RCA Victor?
Yeah, that was huge back then.
It seemed like a smart move at the time, right? Big payday for Elvis, a major label deal.
It did. But later on, people like Blanchard E. Toole, they argued that Parker could have gotten way more money for that contract. I mean, Elvis was already super talented, really popular.
Makes you wonder about Parker's priorities.
Right. Was he really trying to get the best deal for Elvis or just looking out for himself?
And what about Elvis never touring internationally? That always seems strange to me.
Yeah. He only performed in the U.S.
He had fans all over the world, though.
I know. A lot of people blame Parker for that. One theory is that Parker was an illegal immigrant.
Really?
Yeah, and he was afraid that if he left the country, he wouldn't be able to get back in.
Wow.
But there are other theories, too. Some people think Parker was happy with the success they had in the U.S. Maybe he didn't want to take any risks.
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
Think about the fans Elvis would have had around the world.
It's definitely a big what if.
Definitely. Okay, so let's talk about the movies Elvis was in.
You mean all those musicals?
Yeah. Some people say Parker pushed him into those cheesy, low-budget films and that it hurt Elvis's artistic reputation.
Well, those movies were really popular at the time. Made a lot of money.
But did they really show off Elvis's talent?
Well, Parker probably had a lot of say in those movie choices.
Right. He had so much control over Elvis's career.
But Elvis also had his own ideas. He was probably happy with the money those movies made.
It's a tough one to unravel. But all of this makes you wonder, was it a true partnership, or was Parker just using Elvis?
Right. Was it all about Parker's own interests? That's a big question.
It's important to remember that they were both real people with their own flaws and motivations.
Right. Their relationship had ups and downs, just like any other.
And it reminds us that history isn't black and white.
It's complicated.
Exactly. So Colonel Tom Parker's legacy is a mix of genius controversy and a whole lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah, but he knew how to put on a good show.
Oh, yeah. He knew what the public wanted. Those iconic moments, the Ed Sullivan Show appearances, the costumes, the whole rock and roll rebel image.
Parker understood spectacle.
And even the controversy around him probably helped Elvis's fame.
No such thing as bad publicity, right?
Exactly. So maybe their relationship was more like a give and take.
Yeah, Parker's business savvy helped launch Elvis to superstardom. And Elvis's talent gave Parker a platform to do his thing.
They both benefited.
Absolutely.
It's a great example of how even the most successful partnerships can be full of contradictions.
Yeah. And it brings us to a big question. What would Elvis's career have been like without Colonel Tom Parker?
Would he still have become the king of rock and roll? What do you think? It's really hard to say. Parker was definitely a driving force behind Elvis's early success, but who knows what Elvis could have done with a different manager? You know, maybe someone who pushed him more creatively or helped him go international.
Yeah, it's a big what if.
It is. It's all speculation, of course, but it's definitely part of what makes their story so interesting. And, you know, it's easy to focus on the controversies, the criticisms, but we can't forget that at one point their partnership was really successful.
Oh, yeah, those early years, Parker was like a marketing genius.
He was a master showman. He knew how to get people talking about Elvis.
He created a phenomenon.
Exactly. Think about all those appearances on the Ed Sullivan Show,
Yeah.
the costumes, the whole rebellious rock and roll image. He understood how to put on a show, how to capture people's attention.
He did, and those early successes, they really set the stage for Elvis's legacy. Parker's methods might have been a little unusual, but they played a big part in making Elvis a global icon.
So I guess the bigger takeaway here is the whole relationship between artists and their managers.
Absolutely, that balance between creative vision and commercial success can be tricky.
It can. And it reminds us that history isn't always about heroes and villains.
It's usually a lot more complicated than that.
Right. It's full of ambition, compromise, unintended consequences.
Exactly.
Well, I think we've done a pretty good job of unpacking all of that today. The triumphs, the controversies, the business moves, the ethical gray areas. It's been a really fascinating look at one of music's most intriguing partnerships.
It has. Hopefully you have a better understanding now of Colonel Tom Parker's complicated legacy and the impact he had on Elvis Presley's career and on music in general.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Elvis and Colonel Tom Parker. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the music playing.